Tonight, we're on the streets with the men and women trying to stop illegal immigrants entering Britain.
Speak English?
There's 6 more!
6 more.
The latest weapon in the battle against gun crime. And we join the hunt for the suspected paedophiles halfway round the world. Calais, 5 a.m. Fleets of lorries are heading for the port bound for Britain. But some of the drivers are totally unaware they're carrying more than freight. Sniffing out a different kind of cargo are officers from the UK Border Agency. As the team open the back doors, they're hit immediately by the pungent smell of body odour, a sure sign that people are hiding amongst the cargo of Polish groceries.
The load looks like it's being shifted all over the place by them.
We know they're in here. We've got to try and find them.
Inside the lorry, it's extremely hot and stuffy. What the officers find isn't a surprise to them.
Hello, one there. Hello, hello. Oi. I can see you. Sorry. There's another one here. Hiya. And you two, come on. We've got 3 so far.
Nationality?
Afghan. Okay.
Please one chance, please.
No, not today.
Speak English?
It's difficult to know in the dark just how many people are hiding here.
There's 6 more.
6 more.
Just wait there. Just wait there. How long have you been in here? How long? 5 hours. 5 hours. In here. Did someone put you in the lorry?
Where did you get in the lorry? Parking?
Yes,
In Calais?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got another 8, so it's 11 so far.
It quickly becomes apparent that this is not the first time some of these men have tried to smuggle themselves into the UK.
How many?
This is a five there.
It's your 4th time?
No.
4 times?
No, 6 times.
6 times?
1, 6.
It's a never-ending problem for the UK Border Agency teams.
And more.
Wait there.
Many of these immigrants will stay in Calais and try again and again in an attempt to enter the UK.
12 and 13.
It's unclear how these men actually got inside the truck, but they'd been hiding there for up to 6 hours. The men are rounded up and taken to a holding area to be handed over to the French police.
People that try to get into this country when they don't have a right are breaking the law. It's as simple as that. Now, those are people who, if they'd got here without us stopping them, would have sought to get clandestine employment, may have gone into crime. So we think it's really important that we welcome those people who come here legally, but that we rebuff those people that try to get into this country illegally.
The Border Agency team based in Calais is the last line of defence against illegal immigrants. They've had to get wise to the many and varied techniques being used to stow away on lorries bound for Britain.
Underneath the axles they can lay pieces of wood, and the clandestines can actually lay in there.
Between the lorry we've found them. It's amazing we don't get more reports of people being killed. You know, like, 'cause any gap and they're in there, you know.
But it's those who hide inside the lorries who are the most difficult to detect. So the team is equipped with a range of high-tech devices to check for signs of life deep inside each lorry load. Carbon dioxide monitors.
It's detecting breath.
extremely sensitive heartbeat detectors measuring electrical pulses within the lorry, and specially trained sniffer dogs.
George will be searching around the soft-sided vehicles, doing the axles, and he'll be used as a live body detection dog.
And if anything does appear suspicious, there's no choice but to get in the back of the lorry and search through the freight, whether it's toys, clothing, or sides of meat.
Oh God, sorry.
In a whole shift, you could get 200-300 vehicles searched, so it's just a continual process all the time.
It can be frustrating. For all the stowaways they find, they call them clandestines,
Footprints and a smell.
there are signs of those who succeed in getting through.
They've been in here. There's condensation everywhere.
But who exactly are these clandestines? In less than a year in existence, the UK Border Agency has discovered more than 21,000 people trying to enter Britain illegally. Most of them were stopped here in Calais. As you drive around the French port, migrants are everywhere. It's thought there are as many as 2,000 of them in Calais at any one time, from countries all over the world. Since the closure of the Sangatte refugee camp 6 years ago, there's been nowhere official for them to stay, so many camp in the woods around the port and rely on food handouts from local soup kitchens. Many have travelled long distances, some flee war, whilst the majority are trying to escape the poverty of their home countries. And it's hard to know just how many are here with the intention of stowing away to Britain. But each night, scores of migrants emerge, looking to stow away in some of the many freight lorries parked up, waiting to board ferries. Mainly they break in whilst the drivers are sleeping. The border agency team is nearing the end of another shift when they make their second discovery of the night. The lorry's loaded with oranges and tomatoes. But that's not all.
Right, you get back up there. No dish towel.
Listen, is there 10, 20 of you in here?
Yeah,
Right.
no, whole 20. 20, 21, 22.
There appears to be around 20 stowaways, and that's a lot of work for the team. All these people have to be processed, and every inch of the lorry needs to be searched.
Abdullah Muhammad.
The team needs to try to find out who these people are and where they're from.
What's your other name? Muhammad. I'm just trying to ascertain name, age, nationality, just for us to build an identity per person. I've been told this gentleman's 15 years old and he's declared his friend is 14 years old.
This intelligence will be used to help piece together the journeys of these stowaways, building a picture of the methods and routes being used to try to enter Britain.
I think it's going to be 19. What nationality?
One more!
Hey!
One more!
One more, there'll be another one hidden. Excellent. Got another one concealed.
Two more!
One more, two more. There's more concealed. We're going to have to start moving boxes in here. Hello?
Stowed away inside this truck, there were people from Iran, Afghanistan, Eritrea, Sudan, Iraq, and Somalia.
This would have been planned because the actual lorry was locked. So I would believe that somebody would have had the same key to open that type of lock. They would have had this lorry open when the driver was possibly resting. Everybody would have been put in, closed the doors, and they would have locked it so that they wouldn't alert the driver to any disturbance.
It's been a busy night for the UK Border Agency team. In the space of just 10 hours, 35 illegal immigrants have been found hidden in lorries. But frustrations remain. The border agency can't search every truck leaving Calais for Dover. There are simply too many. So there's no way of knowing how many people manage to slip through the net each night, bound for Britain. On this side of the channel, the border agency has another role, seeking out those who are already in the UK illegally. At their headquarters in London, a final briefing before officers launch an immigration raid. The target, a factory rumoured to be employing illegal immigrants.
Primary aim of this operation is to identify and question those persons who are suspected to be immigration offenders or who are working unlawfully in the United Kingdom. We're going to RV here.
The plan is to surround the factory and enter without warning, catching everyone inside off guard. Heading up the raid will be Chief Immigration Officer Alex Legg. He leads these sort of raids weekly.
So if the 5 of you space out quite equally across the front, everybody else will go past the car park up here. The next view makes it clearer. There's a big shutter there. That's where all the other pairs will go in.
At 10 a.m, officers surprise factory staff by arriving in numbers. No one can leave as they seal off exits and move all workers inside to be questioned.
Can you do me a check, please? Date of birth is 1394. Do you know anything with a photo on it at all? You don't have the...
So far, we've established there are approximately 15 employees on site. At the moment, we're just interviewing people to establish their nationality and identity.
Intelligence strongly suggests that at least some of the employees here are working illegally. It's now a case of figuring out who.
ATC and business management at the same time?
Officers are immediately suspicious of these 2 men.
I don't speak Punjabi.
They appear to speak no English and so are unable to answer any questions about their legal status in the UK. In an attempt to establish who these men are, officers will use a specialist fingerprint reading machine which they carry with them.
We see an officer using the quick check, which is machinery to check the fingerprints of people to establish if they're already on our Home Office systems. It's a quick way of establishing, for example, if somebody has claimed asylum in the United Kingdom or has already applied for a visa.
You've never worked here before?
By now, officers have checked the papers of every one of the 15 employees to verify their right to work here.
As a student, you're allowed to...
2 days, that's why we paid him on 6 days.
Then, information arrives from the Home Office on the 2 men, and suspicions are confirmed.
What we have at the moment is we've identified one of the employees working in breach of his landing conditions. If that doesn't allow him to work, he's been found working here, he will be arrested. We'll probably go to his home address to try and find his passport. We've also identified one other man who is a failed asylum seeker whose appeal rights have exhausted, so he is liable for detention pending removal as well. Likewise, home address, see if we can get a passport to facilitate removal to his home country.
Immigration records show both men listed as living at the same address. Officers decide to search it for anything that'll help build a deportation case against the 2 men.
Hello, it's the Immigration Service. Hello.
We're in, Tony.
The house is almost bare.
Completely empty.
The 2 suspects' belongings are all together in one room upstairs. There isn't much to search, so it doesn't take long for the team to find what they're looking for.
Passport found. Limp.
Okay, isn't it? Is it valid, Sean?
What time is it valid?
Valid till 2017.
The passport is conclusive evidence of the man's identity and nationality, which means it'll be far easier to deport him.
Linton Jason? We've got a passport.
Okay.
Then, a suspicious document attracts attention.
Steph, whereabouts was this found?
In the folder.
And this is one of the guys that we've got, I take it.
The name on the bank account is, which is who we're looking for.
Yeah.
But the photograph on the document leaves no doubt. This is the failed asylum seeker arrested earlier.
My suspicion is that this, which is the old style of document provided by the Home Office to people who've claimed asylum, my feeling on first looking at this is that this is a counterfeit.
It appears the suspect may have been using this counterfeit document to claim legal status in the UK. With this and the other man's passport recovered, the team's confident they'll be able to have the two deported quickly. They'll join the list of 66,000 people removed from the country by the UK Border Agency in its first year.
We're trying to run a system where we control migration, so we get the benefits for the country, but people play by the rules. That means we'll check people before they come, we'll take their biometrics, we'll check them again at the border so we can count in and out, and when they're in the country, we'll expect them to obey the rules, and if they don't, we'll take action.
Coming up, in a groundbreaking international operation, we track suspected paedophiles halfway round the world. First, though, how a new tracking system is helping the police to win the war against gun crime. Four years ago, Britain began to experience a wave of shootings, all involving the deadly MAC-10 submachine gun.
Michael Dasunmu was killed when two men forced their way into his home. Daniel Bircher reports.
They sprayed 8 or 9 bullets around the room. 3 of them hit Michael and killed him.
The officer who was killed has been named as Sharon Beshenivsky, a 38-year-old mother of 3 children and 2 stepchildren.
And rapper Richard Holmes, gunned down because his lyrics offended someone.
I took a MAC-10 murder in January 2006, and they are such lethal weapons that the whole street was sprayed with bullets. And I think that's what really frightened us as police officers, but also members of the public.
The MAC-10 is solely a military weapon. It has no other use. It's designed for close quarter combat, for clearing buildings. It's a killing machine.
But police had no idea where these guns were coming from, until a chance discovery by a man nosing around what seemed to be derelict sheds.
In July 2007, we received a call from a member of the public saying they discovered what they thought was a gun factory. The summary of what we found in the shed was something in excess of 2,700 spent 9mm rounds that subsequent examination showed had been fired from MAC-10s. About 17 live rounds. But most significantly, 3 MAC-10s which were packaged up as if they were about to be removed from the premises.
It appeared these were non-firing replica MAC-10s that someone had modified.
One had been converted to fire live rounds, one was partially converted, and one was unconverted. So we had 3 stages of the criminal operation.
The haul was sent to the Forensic Science Service in the hope that ballistic experts could link the cartridges to specific firearms incidents. Police needed to know what the guns were being used for and who was behind the operation. Analysis of those 2,700 spent cartridges would prove crucial.
Whenever a gun is fired, the ballistic material produced will have unique characteristics which can then potentially be conclusively linked back to that gun. As the bullet travels down the barrel, it will pick up characteristic markings. So if I have 2 bullets, And when I can actually see that that's all lining up, I would say that they were fired in the same gun and no other.
These distinctive impressions are essentially fingerprints unique to an individual gun. The markings on each of the recovered MAC-10 cartridges were photographed and compared to ballistic material recovered from previous crime scenes. The results that came back were staggering. The guns could be linked to 51 shooting incidents, 8 of which were murders. At last, police knew that MAC-10s used in killings all over the UK had come from this one makeshift gun factory in Berkshire. But who was behind it?
So what made you look in the shed?
Well, I've been renting a place around the corner and my landlord's always messing around in here. Just wonder what he's up to.
Your landlord? What was his name?
Grant. Yeah, Grant Wilkinson, something like that.
Wilkinson. OK.
From our initial inquiries, we identified a number of potential suspects, but by fast-tracking fingerprint lifts that we found at the scene of the factory, we were quickly able to confirm that one of those names, Grant Wilkinson, was indeed forensically linked to the factory.
Grant Wilkinson was known to the police. He had previous convictions for drug dealing and GBH. But what exactly had he done inside the shed? How many guns did he have and where did he get them? The answer lay in the suspicious purchase of 90 replica MAC-10s 3 years earlier by a man calling himself Gary Wilson.
Hello, mate. Looking for some MAC-10s, big batch of MAC-10s.
MAC-10s? When you say a big batch, how many are we talking?
About 90.
Do you mind me asking what they're for?
I'm working on a new Bond movie.
Nice work if you can get it.
Yeah.
Is this the kind of thing you're looking for?
Do you mind?
Could you just have your name, please, mate?
Yes, Gary.
Gary?
Wilson.
Gary Wilson.
Over a 12-month period, Gary Wilson, as he called himself, collected the guns in batches of 10. But as time went on, his behaviour became more and more erratic. The shopkeeper became suspicious, took his picture and sent it to police. The importance of this photograph only became clear when the gun factory was discovered 2 years later. Police then realised that Gary Wilson and Grant Wilkinson were one and the same man. They could now work out precisely what he'd been doing inside the gun factory. Wilkinson converted these 90 non-firing replica guns into lethal weapons. In one of the UK's largest gun-making operations, the submachine guns were engineered in one building and test-fired in another. They were then sold into the hands of criminals for profit.
Here we go. It's a 9. You get 30 rounds with it. If you want any more, they're £3 each.
So, what are we looking at?
2.5K.
Ballistics had made the link between Wilkinson's MAC-10s. Now the police had to get their man.
Wilkinson went to ground for 6 months and evaded all our efforts to try and capture him. After that 6 months, he obviously became a little bit more relaxed, made a mistake, and as he reappeared, I just immediately ordered his arrest.
Silver to bronze, silver to bronze.
Silver, go ahead.
From Silver, I need 4 armed response vehicles to make an immediate silent approach. It's 23:30 hours and you're all authorised to level 1.
And lights out. The target premise is the 3rd house on the near side. Okay, just to confirm then, 3rd house in the near side. Shield man, cover man, less lethal. Dogminder?
Yep.
I'll be at the back of bronze. Format. Move.
Occupation number 5! You're surrounded by our police! Come to the front door with your hands in the air! Do it now! Come to the front door with your hands in the air. Oh, please, keep still. Look at me. Now follow my instructions. Turn around and face the kitchen door. Do it now. Slowly walk backwards towards the front door.
Grant Wilkinson, I'm arresting you on suspicion of conspiracy to supply prohibited weapons and money laundering.
Although Wilkinson never spoke to us in interview, he did offer up some information via his solicitor, which took us to a location in Juniper Lane near Woburn Green in Buckinghamshire. I deployed specialist search teams to the area and they discovered an arms stash. 22,000 spent rounds that Wilkinson obviously had ready to reload, 700 live rounds, together with 8 MAC-10s, 7 were unconverted and 1 was a live firing MAC-10.
Of the original 90 MAC-10s, we have recovered 52, and this has made a significant impact on the reduction of shootings in London.
The police are still trying to recover the 38 remaining weapons, and the Met's willing to offer a reward for any information leading to their recovery, up to £10,000 for each gun. Grant Wilkinson was found guilty of a series of firearms offences. He was sentenced to life, serving a minimum of 11 years. The discovery of firearms can come unexpectedly, as we discovered when we accompanied officers from Greater Manchester Police looking for a burglary suspect. As the dawn raid reached its conclusion, a call came through, taking us to the other side of the city. No burglar this time. This is a semi-automatic Colt 45, a weapon so deadly, for many years it was the handgun of choice for the US military. In the same room, 45 9mm bullets and a cleaning kit for the gun.
Sadly, this is another case of people involved, what we believe may well be gang activity, but certainly individuals looking after firearms. So this shows really the benefits of doing search warrants, of proactive policing, getting good information from local people, following up suspicions, and now obviously quite a complex forensic recovery.
As this discovery was totally unexpected, police know almost nothing about this gun and what it might have been used for. But a brand new service will help police solve at least some of the mystery. The National Ballistics Intelligence Service, or NABIS, has created a unique database which can hold the details of every gun and every piece of ballistic material recovered from Britain's crime scenes. It'll help police analyse each gun's unique identifying marks extremely quickly, allowing them to work out a weapon's criminal history.
We do know that criminals travel, that guns travel, and they often use a move between cities and move between crime groups. And within 48 hours, we're going to be able to say your crime in Birmingham is linked to another crime in Manchester.
If ballistics do make a link between two incidents, the database may also make connections between the people who had their fingers on the trigger, because all the intelligence relating to suspects will be on file too.
We'll be able to tell them any information we know about who may have been responsible for the previous incident, what vehicles they may have been using, who they're associated with. These are fantastic tools for investigators.
The handgun recovered in Manchester is brought to NABIS for analysis. The gun's examined, and it's quickly apparent that this once deactivated Colt has been crudely reactivated by an amateur. Because the NABIS system relies on the analysis of ballistic material, the Colt will need to be test-fired. The first stage is to check that the weapon will indeed fire live rounds. Clear. There can be no doubt, this is still a potentially deadly weapon. But has it already been used in a crime? Well, the next stage is to examine the unique marks left on the bullet when the gun is fired. The gun's fired into a water tank. The water stops the bullet before it strikes the end of the tank, meaning it can be retrieved in pristine condition. The bullets then photographed and added to the database for analysis. It's good news. There are currently no matches to other incidents on record. But if that changes, and in the future the gun is linked to other crimes, all the intelligence about it will be instantly available to police, greatly improving their chances of solving the crime quickly.
How many guns are out there? Who's supplying them? By following up every lead and understanding the story of every gun, it will allow us to do work to identify and cut off the supply of those weapons, which effectively will help to reduce gun crime and make all of our communities a safer place to live in.
At a police station in Manchester, the man found in possession of the Colt is officially charged.
Manchester, without the authority of the Secretary of State, had in your possession a firearm, namely a black Colt 45 self-loading pistol, contrary to Section 5 to the Firearms Act 1968. Would you like to make a reply to that?
You're not going to be granted bail, basically, it's for your own safety. Do you understand that?
He faces a likely sentence of at least 5 years in jail. Thailand, Southeast Asia, a hugely popular tourist destination famed as much for its risque nightlife as for its golden temples. But under the cover of the overt sex industry in one town, police have uncovered the most sinister of crimes. Amongst the adult sex bars, men were buying children as young as 10 for sex. It's 5 a.m. and we're with officers from both Britain and the Royal Thai Police as they prepare to raid the houses of 4 Western suspects, 2 of them British. British officers have flown halfway around the world to catch them.
We're obviously looking for information that reveals their contact with associates in the local communities. We're looking for information that reveal their identities, especially in the online world. And obviously any other information that will help us be able to profile and understand their offending behaviour.
Back in London, specially trained behavioural analysts stand by to monitor everything that will happen over the next few hours. Their job is to process intelligence for the officers out in the field, offering tactical advice as the operation progresses. These dawn raids will be the culmination of the biggest ever joint British and Thai investigation into child sex abuse. The story began back in London with an investigation into a known online paedophile network. CEOP, the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre, is a specialist part of the police dedicated to combating child sex offenders. The internet has changed the way that these offenders operate, and now CEOP is taking them on at their own game. Specially trained operatives work undercover, posing online as paedophiles. They monitor conversations between suspects as they discuss grooming and plot different ways of gaining access to children.
We monitor and we analyse the chatter, the conversation between different paedophiles, and we pick up trends, we get information about where they're going, where they've been, and then that's one of the ways in which we can identify tactical options in which to investigate them.
And very often we identify a thread of information that when you begin to pull it, takes you from one environment here in the UK to an environment many thousands of miles away.
Last summer, CEOP began picking up intelligence about the availability of children to abuse in Thailand. But the subject of this chatter wasn't the red light districts of Bangkok. Instead, the information pointed towards Pattaya, a coastal town some 100 miles southeast of the capital. The belief was that several Western men, some of them British, were traveling there across the globe with the sole intention of finding those children and having sex with them. CEOP simply couldn't ignore it.
Our main task, or our main objective in whatever operation we do, is the protection and safeguarding of children. And clearly, Thailand was seen as somewhere that paedophiles could go, and certainly felt safer than they did in the UK.
Travelling to Asia to commit this type of crime became familiar to many of us because of the case of Gary Glitter, or Paul Gadd to use his real name. He was convicted of abusing 2 young girls, aged 10 and 11, in Vietnam.
Some people said to me after Paul Gadd was arrested that the only reason the effort was gone into there was because he had some notoriety, call it celebrity, call it what you will. We don't care how famous you are. If you're going to hurt children, we will reach out and we will hold you to account. We'll use all of the considerable technology at our disposal, all of the partnerships that we have around the world to track you down.
But CEOP have no jurisdiction to make arrests outside the UK. If they were going to catch these offenders, they needed to work hand in hand with the local Thai authorities.
We would be working very, very hard to prevent child sex offenders coming to Thailand, and we would be very keen to exchange information with CEOP to prevent this sort of offense, not only in Thailand but worldwide. We have to stop them.
Heading up the CEOP contingent in Thailand is group leader Andy Wells. His opposite number from the Royal Thai Police is Lieutenant Nung. In the first days of the operation, British and Thai officers work hard to get to know one another.
It's very much a case of building up contacts, gaining their trust and authority, and then working to bring an operation together.
The intelligence gathered back in the UK needed to be investigated and the suspects identified. So the first task was to find out what was really happening on the streets of Pattaya. It's a stunning beach holiday destination, but when the sun goes down, it's a very different place. The town has a thriving sex industry. Its nightlife dominated by go-go bars, lap dancing clubs and sex shows. Prostitution is big business here.
Most of the bars in Walking Street, which is the central point of the sex industry in Pattaya, have young girls enticing men into their bars. The bar girls will have numbers on them, and men can pick a girl, buy her number, pay a bar fine, which is a payment to the bar, and then go to a hotel, their hotel, and have sex with them.
But in the back streets of Pattaya, another kind of sex trade is going on. Intelligence suggests that in certain bars, Western men are paying Thai pimps money to source children for them to have sex with. The intelligence centered on one area, the roads around Soi Suni.
This is Soi Suni. Is this the main street?
Yes.
Yeah.
A translator accompanies Lieutenant Nung and CEOP's Andy Wells on a tour of the area.
A lot of children,
Children.
See?
Yeah.
Maybe they are abused mostly.
From the internet cafe?
Yes. sometimes the owner of internet shop,
Yes.
they will let the children play internet, use internet, and children don't have money to pay. And they will let okay, you don't have to pay, but you have to
พี่กลัวแม่งกระโดดหนี
go come with
เพราะว่าเวลามันบอกว่าเวลามันเจอสภาพนี้มันอยากดูดเลยอยากดูดไม้มาอะไร
The man pay money instead of something like that.
So the boy can go on the internet. Yeah.
It seems the majority of children being targeted for abuse are being plucked from the sizable population of homeless street children in Pattaya, an unfortunate offshoot of the city's sex trade.
They have come from broken homes, have drug issues, and are in poor health. We have two types of children. The first are poor children agreeing to sell themselves. The second have been runaways for 5 or 6 years and fallen into bad company. And they have been led and conned into doing sexual business.
It was vital that the team identify these sexual predators and stop them quickly. But who were these men, and how was CEOP going to find them?
Well, is it possible to characterize the typical offender? It could be anyone. You cannot tell by looking. I have seen young men walk up the steps of court and be convicted as predatory paedophiles. Young men, middle-aged men and older men, women in some cases. You can't assume anything. And we have learned that, unfortunately, the hard way.
CEOP knew that the only way they were going to find the attackers was with the help of the victims themselves. They encouraged the Thai police to meet local children's charities and social workers and ask for their help to reach out to the children of Pattaya. Totally unprecedented in this part of the world, but CEOP's Andy Wells managed to reassure them that the police had the children's best interests at heart. With this knowledge, the charity workers agreed to help the officers gently coax information about the attackers from the children. The CEOP team taught the Thais a specialist interview technique called Achieving Best Evidence, or ABE.
It's more of an appropriate way to speak to a child who's been through a traumatic experience of being sexually abused. They were very keen, and they adopted that approach, and they were interviewed by police officers and by social workers and people able to look after them.
All the patience and care paid off. 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl, aged between 10 and 15, told of how a Thai bar owner had sold them to middle-aged Western men for sex.
น้องไม่ต้องกลัว
The team began an intense process of elimination. Who were these men? What did they call themselves? What did they look like? What cars did they drive? And where did the abuse take place?
You'd start off with a nickname, maybe an area where that person lived and where the victim was abused, and then build up an intelligence picture until finally you've identified who the offender is.
Gradually, the pieces started fitting together.
His name is Bobby. Bobby is USA.
His real name is probably Robert.
The victim of him.
Right. Arrest warrant for him?
Yes. Monday.
Yeah. Do you have enough evidence to get an arrest warrant?
Yes.
Maybe Saturday, I'll ask you.
But I haven't found.
After 5 weeks of careful, often painstaking investigation, CEOP and the Royal Thai Police could name their suspects. 2 British men, John Horseman and Malcolm Payne, an American called Robert Lund, and a German, Fritz Blattner. The big day arrives. The plan is to split into 4 police teams, 1 for each of the suspects. They'll attempt to swoop on each target address simultaneously. One CEOP officer has stayed behind at the HQ in Pattaya. He'll serve as the contact between the behavioural analysts standing by in the UK and the officers at the 4 target properties.
Very good, thanks.
Andy Wells is en route to the house of British suspect, 45-year-old John Horseman. 2 boys, aged 13 and 14, identified him as being the man who sexually abused them.
I think my immediate hopes are that, firstly, the target is in the premises. The officers managed to get in safely, and he's secured without any evidence being destroyed. And probably more importantly, is that if there's a child there, we managed to protect that child, remove them from the premises, and assist the Thais in instigating safeguarding procedures.
Unlike their British counterparts, the Thai police don't have the power to force entry to a suspect's address, so Andy Wells and team can only look on from a distance as Thai officers wait for an answer at the front door. Eventually, someone emerges, but it's not the suspect.
Was there someone in there, or nobody?
Should be his relative.
Oh, okay.
But no corporate.
No? Have you got a power to go in and search?
No, we don't have the search warrant for this house.
There are definitely several people inside the house, but is one of them Horseman?
I'm obviously slightly apprehensive. It would, there's been a lot of planning and a lot of work that's gone into this, so it would be nice to come this morning and arrest him. But obviously the evidence is there, all the work's been done, so if we don't get him at this particular stage, then at some stage he'll either return to his house, or we'll manage to pick him up somewhere else.
It's not been the best start to the day. Tensions are running high as another team heads for the home of 67-year-old German suspect, Fritz Blattner. He's accused of the abuse of a 10-year-old girl. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, so the team's hopeful that not only will the suspect be at home, he'll be apprehended so quickly he won't have time to destroy any vital evidence. This time the plan works perfectly. Blattner is caught completely off guard.
Accused of having lewd and sexual misconduct with a minor, and we have a warrant to search your room.
So, one suspected paedophile has been apprehended, but there's still no sighting of the British man John Horseman.
Can I just give you a quick update, Claire? They're at Horseman's premises. There's 2 people in the house. They don't know if it's Horseman, so they're just standing off there waiting to someone to let them in, basically.
Okay, right.
The officers are still in negotiations with the people inside John Horseman's house.
That girl should be the stepdaughter of the suspect. Okay. But she have no idea where the suspect is at the moment.
Then, from inside the house, an older woman emerges. After checking police credentials, she agrees to let the Thai officers inside.
It appears this is John's ex-wife, who speaks English, so I'm trying to negotiate speaking to her, see if we can locate him, get a mobile phone number or something like that.
If suspicions about Horseman are correct, whilst he remains at large, he presents a very real threat to children. At the UK headquarters, the CEOP team turned to the known chatter networks around Pattaya to see if they can work out anything about his location.
Yeah, refresh it.
But there's another development to worry them.
The subject on the periphery who's not subject to an arrest warrant today is currently online. So he lives in Pattaya, so he's going to have his ear to the ground. He might know what's going on. He might be alerting people as it's unfolding.
That's really interesting. So if you keep flicking back between that site and just to see whether anyone's getting wind of what's happening or anything like that, and if we get the CII to keep us updated, Claire.
Back on the ground in Pattaya, CEOP's Jim Warnock is at the home of the other British suspect. Malcolm Payne, 59, is accused of the abuse of a 14-year-old boy. Payne is at home, and while he's allowed the Thais to search his house, he has yet to emerge.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Melissa.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Just to let you know, I've sent you through an image of some of the material that's been seized at Payne's address. So there's a lot of adult porn, there's some dildos, passport, they've got some data storage as well.
Brilliant, so this is Payne's.
This is Payne, yeah.
And was he home alone?
No, he's here with a number of local Thais, but no children.
Very good, thanks for that.
Thanks.
And then, as the team continues to examine the evidence they've seized, the man at the centre of it all, hiding out of sight, finally steps outside.
My name's Jim Warnock, I'm from CEOP. It's a Child Exploitation Online Protection Centre from the United Kingdom. We're here to support the Royal Thai Police with the work they're doing this morning.
But there's still no sight of John Horseman at his home address.
Yeah, fine. OK, cheers, bye-bye.
Hearing that other suspects are being brought in, Andy Wells decides to head back to regroup. A bewildered Malcolm Payne is led into police HQ.
He's just kind of like in shock because he's never been arrested before in the UK nor here. He doesn't know what to expect, and I was just trying to tell him to, calm down, relax, and just go with the process. So, and then we told him that he will probably be spending the night in a cell. He wasn't too happy with that. And
Fritz Blattner is brought in soon after. His flat has been searched and paedophilic DVDs of young girls were discovered. And although our cameras weren't there to see it, the Thais have also arrested American suspect Robert Lunt, accused of the abuse of a 15-year-old boy. With 3 suspects in custody, one is outstanding, John Horseman. Then, a breakthrough.
We just received some intelligence that Horseman was returning to his house at 9 o'clock this morning, Thai time.
And that should be taking place about now, because that's 9 o'clock their time, right. 2 o'clock our time.
Yes, that's right.
5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
Can I talk to him?
Andy gets a call summoning him back to Horseman's house.
We're not going to be allowed in, so if he wants to come out, bearing in mind he's going to see me and potentially a camera, then that's entirely down to him, but we nor the Thais can force the issue on this one.
It hasn't been confirmed. Has he been arrested?
Yeah.
But he is definitely here and he's arrested. Good, good, well done, well done.
This car?
Yes. Yeah, that's his car there. All the ones we briefed on this morning we've got. To get them all is a relief.
With all the suspects in custody, the Royal Thai Police decide to move them and all the evidence seized to Police HQ in Bangkok. And as they're loaded into the vehicle, we finally get a glimpse of the elusive John Horseman. The operation has been a success in large part because of the children of Pattaya.
All of the victims are under care proceedings. All their cases have been re-examined and they'll be monitored to ensure their welfare in the future is helped as much as possible.
The suspects have arrived at police headquarters in Bangkok, where they hear for the first time what the Thai police have planned for them. The men will not be deported. They'll be held and tried in Thailand. Horseman, Payne, Lunt and Blattner and all the evidence seized from their homes are paraded in front of the Thai press, even though as yet they haven't been formally charged. CEOP and the Royal Thai Police will continue to work together to fight the sexual abuse of children in Southeast Asia. As for the suspects, they're now awaiting trial. If found guilty, they face 20 years in a Thai prison.
If you're willing to travel to a foreign jurisdiction and you're going there for the purpose of taking advantage of the most vulnerable people there, children, then I believe that you need to go to prison there as well, to a Thai prison, a Cambodian prison, a Vietnamese prison, or wherever else you go, to a local prison. So if you've got this doubt in the back of your mind that maybe I'll be caught, but I don't think I will, it'll never happen to me, rest assured, everybody we catch thinks that, but we catch them all the same.
If you've been affected by the issues in tonight's programme, call the BBC Action Line in confidence on 08000 839 839. Calls are free from a landline, mobile operators will charge, lines are open 24 hours a day.